Good morning, folks. We've got a full slate of news here today, including geomagnetism, solar forcing, a look back in time, exo-Earths, and cosmology. Filaments dancing here while the rest of us go to spaceweathernews.com and find the last day on our star, with the story continuing to be the coronal holes. The lead opening coming up from the South Pole should have its solar wind arrive today. Meanwhile, Earth will be magnetically connecting to the northern opening incoming behind it. While we wait for those streams, the solar wind is very calm. All telemetry in normal range and the geomagnetic conditions are calm and quiet too. When the impacts begin, telemetry will change sharply. And due to the proximity of the coronal holes to each other, we could see the impact from the second before the first has completely waned away. Again, upon that impact, look for at least a couple days of increased geomagnetic unrest compared to the last few. Quick look at some of the damage in Florida. Tropical system's major impact was in fact 3 tornadoes that dropped out of the landfalling arm of the cell. Pretty scary moments for some. Looking ahead, there is a typhoon, tight and strengthening in the West Pacific, slated to cross over the Mariana Islands into the Philippine Sea, and we'll diagnose when it gets there, but for now the alert goes to the tiny islands alone in the water. Let's jump to the papers, and start with a look at one of the ways geomagnetic storms affect the lower atmosphere. The penetrating electric fields can last for hours and hours, driving energetic phenomena and directly affecting the ionosphere and therefore the global electric circuit. This is the immediate effect that space weather has been seen to have on clouds, surface pressure, and particle nucleation. It's moving at the speed of electricity through the global electric circuit. Another way to affect that circuit is direct particle injection and ambient air ionization by cosmic rays. Folks, we've seen the following correlation dozens of times. Always nice to get another. And always nice to correct my missing this paper in a core journal earlier this summer. Not exactly sure how I missed such a blatant honoring of Svensmark and the lightning connection with cosmic rays. A very direct relationship. And now, in the same realm, a very interesting paper here details a dip in the ionosphere at the South Atlantic magnetic anomaly. It's the weakest field point on the entire planet. I want to bring back archive video from almost exactly 1 year ago on why that is the weakest point in the fields.
This video is meant to be a quick reminder about a sensible and physics-based explanation for the South Atlantic anomaly, one that doesn't require interpretation of Earth's core soundings based on earthquake waves going through them. However, we must begin with the magnetic poles. For those who are just joining the program, both north and south magnetic poles are moving. South Pole is well ahead in terms of motion, having already left Antarctica, but the North is moving much faster, racing across the Arctic Ocean. As this is happening, Earth's magnetic field is weakening as well. Let's take a close look at the pole motion. The North isn't really bending, that's just how it looks on a rectangular projection. The red is where it is going into the future, and the other colors are what has happened so far, and its path here would have it heading down through Siberia towards the Indian Ocean. The South Magnetic Pole is slowly traipsing up into those waters already and is on a line to meet somewhere in the ocean there, but exactly where is tough to say. One thing is for sure, the South Atlantic anomaly is found on the opposite side of the planet. This anomaly, the blue asterisk, is a weak point in Earth's magnetic field, exposing the region to higher levels of cosmic rays and charged particles from the magnetosphere and Van Allen belts during CME impacts. The questions tend to revolve around the concept of why it is weakening, and often the emails are accompanied by a link to a paper about core or mantle characteristics beneath the South Atlantic anomaly. Well, there are certainly plenty of those papers that exist, but a much better explanation involves the magnetic field effects over distance. As you move a magnet closer to metal, the more you feel the tug. The further you go from the magnet, the less attractive force is there to be overcome. This is the first thing young children learn when playing with magnets. It just so happens that the point where the magnetic poles are set to meet is the exact opposite spot in the world from the South Atlantic anomaly, and indeed, both magnetic poles are moving further away from that point. Why would one expect not to see a drop in magnetic fields there if the magnetic poles are moving away? And why would one need to go searching for another explanation? Remember, we've never actually been more than a fraction of the way through the crust. The mantle and core are still largely a mystery, and there is mainstream science-based explanations for the South Atlantic anomaly that are not mentioned in one single piece of the journal literature.
To summarize, they want to explain this weak spot with core mantle boundary conditions beneath Africa and the Atlantic, but all you need to comprehend is how a magnet works. greater effect the closer you get, and its force diminishes as you move it away. Both magnetic poles of Earth are moving directly away from the South Atlantic anomaly. Let's go next to exo-Earths, and this will make channel veterans happiest of all. They say Earth is not special, and they use the rationale we used in the Starwater series. Rocks are rocks. They are going to be heavily oxidized wherever we find them in space, and therefore, the energetic solar wind hydrogen liberation and combination mechanism of water production works everywhere. Water is everywhere, and in all likelihood, life is too. Starwater's final piece of the puzzle is now actual mainstream science as it aligns with our 2013 presentation entirely. No variation at all. Let's wind up with cosmology as we first find massive cold filaments ubiquitous around active galactic nuclei blown radio bubbles in the centers of galaxies. These filaments flow back into the active galactic nuclei and fuel them over time, which means they are cold plasma currents carrying dust and gases along with them. And stepping out to a larger scale, I will call this a not-so-mysterious coherence. Taking the previous studies claiming that galactic neighbors shared spin dynamics, we find it basically goes for the entire cosmic version of a zip code. They're all spinning similarly. It's not a coincidence, and you can't blame gravity for something like that. It's the shared current and magnetic fields to which they are exposed from the cosmic web. Folks, we greatly appreciate your support. It's the final diurnal in my 34th circling of our star today, so with the 35th beginning tomorrow, we've got our hoodies at $35, both black and white. We greatly appreciate your support over at otf.cells.com. Eyes on seismicity, folks, with these coronal holes facing Earth. Tonga's been foreshocking hard the last 24 hours, but keep tabs on the entire globe at quakewatch.net. We've got wind map forecasts and shots of our star to close. We'll do this all again tomorrow, right here, but right now it's 4:20 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.